This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
I was assisting a motorist who'd got bogged on the side of the freeway, and I just pulled over on my motorcycle and he was well and truly stuck. So I called for a tow truck for him, and as I was doing that, there was a car coming on the freeway. There was a guy on his phone, wasn't paying attention, and looked up, saw brake lights in front of him, and he swerved. So he actually hit me at probably about 80 k's an hour.
I'm Georgia, and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast that finds the good in the midst of the bad. Each episode, we meet someone who's had a bit of a hard time but has found hope and healing along their journey. Hopefully, they inspire you to embrace the good in your world as well. Episode 22. Paul Litherland. Paul Litherland cares deeply about people. So much so that he's spent his whole career protecting the vulnerable and giving a voice to the voiceless. Paul was a Western Australian police officer for more than 2 decades, spending the last 5 years of his career in the cyber crimes unit. He was so passionate about this work that he then left the force altogether to focus on his passion for keeping kids safe online. Today, he spends his days, in his words, talking to anyone who will listen about how to stay safe on the internet. And that's garnered him a nomination for Western Australia's Australian of the Year for 2022. Paul loves his life, but it hasn't always been easy. In 2004, he experienced a terrible motorbike accident while on the job and was told he would never walk again. This is the story of a courageous man who has truly made the most of the hand he was dealt. Let's meet him.
My name is Paul Litherland. I was a WA police officer for 20 years here in Perth, so all over the shop, different areas. In my last 5 years or 6 years working at the Technology Crime Investigation Unit, so we dealt with a whole pile of stuff, scams, hacking, nudes, cyberbullying and all that sort of stuff. I got a real interest in I suppose, giving education and assisting the victims of the crimes that were contacting me, mainly because I was getting really frustrated with how poorly people were being protected online. So I started up my own little business, Surf Online Safe, and this is pretty much what I do now. So I go around to schools and give education to schools and organisations all across Australia. So very busy boy.
Yeah, fantastic. Can I ask, what originally drew you to policing? Was it something that, you've always wanted to be since you were a kid?
No, it wasn't until I was 24 that I was gotten sick and tired of driving trucks and doing deliveries around Perth. So I thought, what am I going to do with myself? And then my father was actually a police officer, so I was second gen WA police, and I thought, I might see what that's like. And my father was sort of struggled with the job a fair bit. He struggled with alcoholism and violent domestic violence. So I didn't really want to go down that track, but I almost felt it was probably a challenge for me to go, okay, I might give policing a crack in the positive sense. And that's why I think I really joined the job. We call it the job. So just never looked back from there realistically.
Paul was a fantastic police officer. He took his job very seriously. But in 2004, almost a decade into his career, a split second would change his life forever.
I was actually assisting a motorist who'd got bogged on the side of the freeway, and I just pulled over on my motorcycle and he was well and truly stuck. So I called for a tow truck for him, and as I was doing that, there was a car coming on the freeway. There was a guy on his phone, wasn't paying attention, and looked up, saw brake lights in front of him, and he swerved. So he actually hit me at probably about 80 k's an hour.
Wow.
And then, so threw me about 10 metres down the freeway, and I landed on my back and broke my back, ruptured 3 discs, received a brain injury as my head hit the road. That literally and figuratively hit me pretty hard, and I struggled for 6 years in rehabilitation, and I was off work for a couple of years at a time, and then finally got back to policing in some sense, even in a non-operational sense, and that's how actually I ended up at Tech Crime. Funnily enough, as a non-operational police officer, I had to find a spot where I could still wear the uniform, but wouldn't be out on the streets. So luckily, one of my mates was working at Tech Crime, so I thought, I might give it a go, and haven't looked back since. So it's been great.
What was it that you loved about working in Tech Crime?
I loved, it's policing in general. I loved helping people. I loved getting involved in assisting where I could, but more importantly, I suppose I am a bit of a nerd, Georgia. So my background was gaming and web design and graphic design. So for me, it was just a great transition to do what I like doing. Up until that point, what I loved doing was cruising around on a police motorbike getting paid for it, but I couldn't do that anymore. So computers was the next best thing.
Paul felt lucky to be able to return to the police force and do what he loved, helping people. But away from the workplace, Paul struggled. He was completely changed after the accident, which wasn't always easy on those he loved.
It had a very significant impact on my family. I'm married. I have a son. I've been married for 26 years. My boy is 22. So in and out of hospitals for a long time, a number of surgeries. So it took so much time and I suppose energy away from the household. And amazing credit goes to my wife Estelle, because she pulled me out of some really dark places, Georgia, because I suffered quite significantly from mental health issues and depression, and I was on some massive pain medication for a number of years. So yeah, it did have so much of an impact on my life because I couldn't go anywhere. Before I joined the police, I was very heavily involved in playing footy and cricket. Right up until only a couple of years ago, I was coaching in the AFL system, in the Waffle system in Perth. So I've gone from having such a massively active lifestyle to having to sit at home doing nothing or sit in the hospital doing nothing. So that really affected me and impacted on me. And I did have, with great respect to people who suffer back injury as an example, you go, I got a sore back, harden up. But it's not until you're sort of in that world that you realise, wow, because I'd never really suffered an injury in my life. I broke a rib once playing footy and I thought, okay, well, that's sore. But I've always been fit and healthy. And so having some major injuries, it just flipped my world upside down.
In those times, those really dark times, was there anything that you kind of made you feel hopeful?
I suppose the hope that I'd get out of it, the hope that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. My family was always my motivator. And to be honest with you, Georgia, there was an incident in 2006 where one of the girls at my son's school was murdered by an online predator here in Perth. And this was a national case, Sophia Rodriguez. I got a phone call and I was in a really, really bad way. And I got a phone call from one of my colleagues who was at that crime scene. And he said, does your son go to Mater Christi, which was the school? And I said, yeah. He goes, do you know such and such? And I heard that name and I went, oh my God. And so at that point, and this sounds like such a separate story to what I was going through and what I was dealing with, but the young girl who was murdered, her father was overseas at the time. So this poor man had to sit on a plane for 23 hours knowing that his daughter's life had been taken. And so I was sitting there in a bath at the time, feeling sorry for myself. So I thought, no, mate, it's always worse. There's always someone worse off than you. So that was a catalyst for me. That actually pulled me out of, I suppose, a lot of my depression to go, okay, let's see what we can do to help people. You've got an opportunity to do that. And that's when I suppose my interest in really protecting kids, especially online, was really born. And that's a story, a lot of people in my life really don't know about.
As well as Sophia, Paul lent on his Catholic faith to pull him through these hard times. When he didn't want to go anywhere or see anyone, church became a refuge.
I suppose Christianity's always played a role in my life because we were very strong churchgoers when we were younger. I was one of 5 kids, so it was always about that community for me. It was always about that, okay, you could see familiar faces every week, and again, it takes you out of that me mentality, and so much of what I suppose built me through that time, especially with my crash, sort of reinstilled me or reinvented me back into my faith, and to go, I suppose, to church every Sunday and go, okay, there is a way out of this, but more importantly, look around and go, okay, there's people here who are struggling, so that's what can I do to help? So I think that's where a lot of that is driven, and me personally as well. As I said, it's that's the policing side of me as well, I suppose. I just want to help people, and I suppose that's where that's been instilled into me ever since I was a little boy.
Paul worked to help and protect people just like Sophia. But in 2014, he quit the police force altogether. Why quit a job so fulfilling that you loved so much?
To be honest with you, I just got so frustrated with how little I could do as a police officer. We had little, and we still have quite little legislation available to us. But more importantly, where I got frustrated and where I'm really pushing now as part of my advocacy is so many of the organisations we're dealing with at that time and still today, social networking, big tech, just don't give a damn about us, Georgia. So I was constantly asking for assistance in regards to evidentiary assistance, in regards to removal of content, and I was getting pushed up against a fair bit. So in reality, Surf Online Safe was born out of that frustration. So I just started doing a few presentations at my son's school and a couple of friends' schools, and then before you know it, so I'd gone from 3 schools in 2011, I think it was, to about 110 in 2012. So I thought, oh, here's a niche, so I might get out there and do it. And 800 schools later, here we are. It's a busy boy. It's good.
So Paul officially started Surf Online Safe, a program which aims to teach kids how to navigate the scary online world safely.
Cyber safety is a great term, and I respect that term, don't get me wrong, but I call it internet awareness. So I give internet awareness education. So I go out to schools, organisations, I talk to seniors, I talk to lobby groups, I talk to Parliament, government organisations, just about my experiences working at tech crime and what I'm still seeing now. So I work very hard in that realm in regards to building my education and knowledge to assist people who are going through some pretty bad things online, but also to give really strong awareness sessions to those who are online, and all of us are nowadays. We know that. So, but kids for me especially, because our kids are online at younger and younger ages every year, and they're being exposed to so much more risk than they ever have in the past. So as a result of that, I just felt a need to give them as much information as I can on my experiences. So that's what I do. So I speak to anyone from year 4s, 9 years of age, right up to 99 if they want to listen to me. It's good. It's good.
I think there's a fine line between, being firm and then being scary. You don't want kids to be scared of the dangers of the internet because they have to live with it every second of the day. How do you get your point across, perhaps without fear creeping in, even though there are terrible things that happen?
The proudest part of my business and myself as an educator is I get this feedback constantly. Kids will say, Paul, you didn't come out and say, don't do this, don't do that. You didn't point the finger. You just gave us examples. You gave us reasoning in regards to why we need the education. And you gave us an opportunity to make those decisions ourselves. So I think that's extremely important. You just give them real life examples. You just sit there and go, look, kids, if I'm talking to a year 8 group, I'm dealing every day with kids who are ringing me or emailing me going, Paul, I never thought that would happen to me. So guys, if you're sitting here thinking it won't, love you, I respect you, but it can. So let's continue to have that mindset of, okay, I'm going to keep guarded, because at least if it does come, and sadly the online world, it eventually will, you're going to be prepared. And that's what I'm all about. It would be easy for me to come out and say, that's it, kids, get off the internet, it's dangerous, you're all reckless. And some kids are, don't get me wrong, but if they, like anything in life, if you give them the right tools, then they're going to grow and they're going to develop. And then, and for me, for year 12s to come up to you at the end of a session, because you've been speaking to them since year 5, and for them to be in tears saying, Paul, we're not going to see you again, that is what I hang my hat on. And that is the most proudest things. Yes, I've got legislation that's been introduced and I'm making change, but that is what I'm on about, because those kids are going to talk to younger brothers and sisters. Those kids are going to develop their kids much better than they were. So that's what I'm all about.
And although Paul is the one teaching these kids, they have valuable things to teach him too. The tech world moves so fast, and Paul likes to go straight to the source to know exactly what the new online trends are.
A lot of my time is presenting, but a lot of it also takes up making sure my experiences and my knowledge is up to date. So continuing to talk with people and stakeholders in this environment to make sure I'm continuing to be at that coalface. But it's very difficult because it's you're on the back foot constantly. And this is why I have so much empathy for parents, because they're on the back foot, because our kids are so techie, they're so quick in this environment. So that is where I am lucky, in the fact that I build great rapport with all the kids I speak to, so you can bounce off them a fair bit, and they do open up to you and really give you some great information. So that's one of the biggest things I'm the most proud of as an educator at the moment.
As a parent, Paul, do you find that the work that you do has a heavier weight on you?
It does, and it did very early, especially. I mean, I saw some pretty horrible things at tech crime in 6 years, and when you'd get home, you just want to give your son a hug and go, that's it, mate, in the cupboard. I'm not letting you out until you're about 50. But again, it's separation from that is important as a police officer, and that's what I found, an ability to do that. But having said that, it was also important to try and really, again, bring that education to my own household and try to give education to my kid and his mates without freaking them out or without having that anxiety, I suppose, I saw as a police officer to bring that home. So it's a very, very tough balance.
But teaching kids isn't enough. Paul also knows the need to make parents more aware of the online world that their kids are a part of.
The biggest thing, the trend I'm seeing is a lot of parents will go, no, my kid's not there yet, I don't need to worry about it. I'll worry about it when they're 13, 14. But kids at 9, 10, 11 years of age now are taking very strong risk online. They're playing in areas where they're not protected. They're talking to randoms in huge numbers. In fact, anywhere between 40 to 60% of year 5s and 6s are interacting with strangers or randoms in gaming environments. So parents, with great respect to them, are on the back foot in that regard. So for me, this is, again, where education is very important.
And what are your top tips for keeping kids safe online?
It seems deflective, and I say it a lot in all of my presentations and media, is conversations. And I know that's a handball to parents, but so much of what I was seeing at tech crime were kids going through really serious online issues who had parents who didn't take any involvement in their life, parents who gave them unfettered access to the internet in bedrooms at any hour of the night. So those kids were making errors of judgment and getting caught out. So for me, if we could start having conversations as early as possible, when our kids are 9, 10 years of age, and parents worry about that, mate, because they go, I can't talk to my child about porn or nudes if they're 9, but we can, because as parents we have a perceived worry. We already have an inwritten fear that our kids aren't going to understand it because it's such a complex issue. But saying to a 10-year-old, look, love, if you're going to have a bath tonight, don't take your iPad in there, because you could accidentally take a photo and that could accidentally get out there. So having that conversation, your child's not going to go, Mum, I'm not going to send pornography. They're just going to go, oh yeah, that might be embarrassing. Also, the big one for me is getting aware of what our kids are using, get into their worlds, okay? So if a child is saying, Mum, I want TikTok, or Mum, I want to go on Discord, which is an online gaming chat environment, okay, rather than go, nope, you're not getting that till you're 46. Okay, let's sit down and go, right, if you want it, let's run through it together. Let's educate both of us, because at least then if something does go wrong or your child is making inappropriate risk or decisions, you're already on the front foot. You're not going, what's Discord, mate? How long have you been doing this? So those little approaches are very important. Of course, control and monitoring through softwares and hardwares are also very important. And all those tips can be found on my websites, and other organisations such as eSafety Commission are doing some great work as well.
Paul, what keeps you hopeful after seeing such awful things?
What keeps me hopeful is, and it sounds corny, but our kids are our future. So I'm waiting for the music to come out with that sentence, but they are. And what fills me full of hope, I mean, I turned 50 last year. I'm an old bloke now. So our kids are making the change, okay? And this is why I'm really so proud of my kids, because, and I'm going to give you an example. I'll pick on Mr. Zuckerberg because Facebook's, or Meta, is the largest network in the world, and he's listening to us as we speak. They've said no to Zuckerberg Network. So Zuckerberg lost teenagers or under 25s about 11 years ago. It started to drop. He got kids back on Instagram about 8 years ago. But now Instagram is dying. Okay, so teenagers have gone, no, we're sick of the manipulation. We're sick of you treating us as numbers instead of humans. So they've made that change. They've pushed to TikTok and Snapchat, which are still risky apps, don't get me wrong. But those two apps are responding. They're going, you know what? We have to listen to our audience. We have to listen to our users. So where I'm seeing really an exciting, I suppose, change now, where I do have faith in the future, is that our children are going to be the ones who are shifting this change, especially in regards to social media and gaming. This is not new to our kids now. They know the internet. They've known it all their lives. So that's where I'm pretty full of faith in regards to the future.
Paul, how has this work changed who you are as a person?
Wow, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I don't think it's changed me much. It's made me, I suppose, more strong in regards to activism and advocating change. It's made me more of a stronger person in regards to challenging others to get better. But in reality, I don't think it's changed me much in the fact that I've always had a pretty good sense of humour. And I just love sharing my experiences with people, and anyone who knows me, I love a chat. So what's changed me the most, I think, is just I've come out of my shell a lot more. I was a very shy person to a degree for a while, and especially obviously through the times I was dealing with my crash, I was very reserved. I didn't want to go out anywhere. I didn't want to really do anything. But I think that ability to get out and really share my experiences has brought me out of my shell, and which is something I'm pretty proud of.
Thank you so much to Paul Litherland for sharing his incredible story. To learn more about Paul's work, visit surfonlinesafe.com.au, and that information is in the show notes. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can send me an email, a review, or share this podcast with your friends. Stories are always better when they're shared, and you never know what someone can learn from someone else's journey. If you or someone you know has a story of hope to share and you'd actually like to be on the podcast yourself, I would love to hear from you. You can leave a comment on the Finding Hope page at hopepodcasts.com.au. For now, I'll leave you with this verse. But the Lord is faithful. He will establish you and guard you against the evil one. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3. Catch you next time.
I promise that I'll meet you wherever you are. I'll come
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.